my bed. Ain't gotta be, hey, gotta be chill like a Sunday. Never wanna look too thirsty. Put your drink, got me feeling where you at. Make you feel love. Ain't gotta be, hey, gotta be chill like a Sunday. Ain't gotta be.
Hey Rose family, it's your girl Serenity Rose. We're back with another video, and as you guys can tell by the title, we are going to be doing a eyeshadow collection video, and I have quite a few eyeshadow palettes. This is just palettes as far as eyeshadow goes, not face palettes, not single shadows, just eyeshadow palettes. Okay, my collection has grown quite a bit since my last declutter, and I am in the process of moving, so I actually have all of my eyeshadow palettes out of my makeup storage unit, so I can actually speak to you about them. So first, we're going to talk about my bigger palettes, and I have my bigger palettes on this like acrylic organizer, and I got this from Amazon, so as you can see, I'll leave it linked down below. And then that thing sits on top of my storage unit, and then all of these palettes sit inside of it. So we're gonna go through them, and we're gonna talk a little bit about them, and try not to make this a super long video, but it most likely is. So go get yourself a little snack, a little drinky drink, and come and chill with me. Also, I apologize in advance if you hear my fan. It's just too hot to not film without it, but I'm hoping with my mic closer to my mouth, you can most definitely hear me over the fan. Okay, so like I said in the beginning, we're going to start off with the larger palettes. So first we have the Morphe X James Charles palette. This is not the mini. I wish I did get the mini, but when I purchased this, I couldn't find the mini anywhere, and not thinking to check actually the Morphe site. But I do have the full-size palette. Everyone knows what this bad boy looks like. I actually really love this palette. I have used it once since I got it. This is kind of new to my collection. I got it like towards the end of 2020. I did use it maybe once or twice, but I do want to get more use out of it. So hopefully with my new acrylic, organizer on top of my vanity, on top of my storage unit, I will get more use out of it, because when I was keeping them in the drawer, I would keep them obviously all the way at the bottom, and who wants to take out a million palettes just to use one? Not me, hopefully not you, but now that it's sitting nicely on top of my vanity, I can get more use out of it. So the next palette that I have is the Fury 2.0 palette. This is from Beauty Bay, and this is super new to my collection. Like, I just filmed a video hauling this and using it, so I'm gonna post a picture here of the makeup look that I created using it, and this palette is heaven. This is most definitely probably gonna be in my favorites video. It does come with a nice sized mirror, as you can see, it's quite large. But look at the freaking shades in this palette. Look at it, just look. I am obsessed with this palette. I've only used it once, and it was for that video, but I can most definitely say this is probably going to be in like my top 10 eyeshadow palettes as far as like top 10 goes. I'll try to leave on the screen if it's a part of my top 10, but this is definitely up there in the rankings. So next is another palette from Morphe, because Morphe loves, designing super large palettes. This is the 3503 Fierce by Nature palette, again from Morphe, and this is what this one looks like. Really pretty. Whoa, it is so windy outside. My whole building just shook. I live in a two-family house. Like, I felt my freaking building like, ooh. Did you see my camera move? Because that's how freaking. Anyways, back to the palette. Really pretty colors in here. I love pink. You guys know pink is my favorite color, so I definitely love those pinks. That green is a really pretty pop of green, and all the colors in here are just really nice. Like, I love Morphe's shadow formula. Like, they almost never fail. So yeah, this is what this one looks like. Next, I have the OG Jaclyn Hill palette, again in collaboration with Morphe. It has the shade names on the back, and this bad boy has been loved quite a bit. Out of this entire palette, I would most definitely say this shade right here is my favorite. Obviously, I hit pan on it. Everything in this palette blends out like a dream. The shimmers and metallic shades are really, really nice. The mattes blend out like a dream. And I just love this color story. I definitely want to purchase the volume 2. But yeah, look at that. Just freaking gorgeous. You can definitely tell I love this palette. I would also say the Jaclyn Hill palette is probably in my top 10. So next I have the Makeup Revolution X Alexa Stone Instinct palette, which looks like this. Really, really pretty packaging. The palette is huge. I love big palettes for some reason. It does come with a nice sized mirror, but these are the shades. It's an all matte colorful palette. So we got the yellows, the greens, the blues, the grays, the purples, the pinks, and like the orangey reddish shades. So if I ever feel like a palette doesn't have a color, I will come to this palette. I did create a full look using this palette, so I'll leave that linked up here. And I did also use this for my Halloween makeup look that I posted on Instagram. I will try to leave a picture up here, but this is a really pretty palette, and the pinks, I mainly use the pinks and purples, but really, really pretty. The formula is nice, and for all matte palettes, I ain't complaining. So next I have a Profusion palette. This is the Profusion Starlit palette. It has 35 shades in here, and look at this, gorgeous. So I think I created 2 looks, 1 palette using this palette, like a video using this palette, and I think I did it in 2 separate videos, like a part 1 and part 2 for look 1 and look 2, because it would have been too long for me in my opinion. But I noticed something while I was looking at this palette. If you're ever having trouble trying to figure out what to do, try going down in a column and just using those shades to create an entire freaking look. Like, you can create an entire look just using these, using this color story, this color story. Like, I didn't realize that until I really just sat down and looked at the palette and was like, huh, wow, I could just use a whole freaking row and create an entire look with that row instead of being like so overwhelmed, if you're a person that gets overwhelmed with larger palettes. Again, if I had to pick a favorite shade, I'm honestly gonna say this pressed glitter is really, really freaking pretty. Like, I don't really like pressed glitters, but Profusion does them right. Like, they're not splotchy. They actually pick up really nicely, especially if you use your finger. Even if you use a brush, they are really, really nice. So this is a really good palette as well. So next is something that is kind of new to the collection. I purchased this again the end of 2020, and this is from Anastasia. This is the ABH Nervina Pro Pigment palette. This is part of the collection. This is volume 4, and of course I got it because I love this color pink. You guys know me. And I actually really love the color story as well. The mirror is super huge, but let me just hold it upside down because it doesn't open anymore. I freaking love all the colors in here. I've used this at least 3 to 4 times since I've got it, and I loved every single look that I created using this palette. Not because like the formula is bomb, but I just love everything about this palette. I love the mirror, I love the size, I love the colors, I love the actual color of the palette. Like, I'm in love with this palette, and I'm gonna say this is most definitely in my top 10. Okay, don't come for me, don't come for me. So next I have 2 palettes from Colourpop. So I have the Bare Necessities palette from Colourpop. So these are the 30 pan eyeshadow palettes, and baby, I've used this palette like at least maybe 6 to 8 times, and every time I create this really beautiful soft glam using different shades. Like, this palette is soft glam, like the definition of soft glam. Like, Colourpop killed it when they created this palette. They also did make another one which is called like the Stone Cold Fox or something like that, and it's much more cool toned. So if you love cool toned, then go for that palette, but if you like a neutral soft glam moment, then definitely go for this one. Favorite shade in here, I'm gonna say, is this shade right here. It's called Idle Hour. It's such a pretty inner corner highlighter shade and brow bone shade, and the black in this palette is super good as well. So the other one is again another 30 pan eyeshadow palette, and this is the Jaded Palette. This is in collaboration with Kathleen Lights, and I love all of the colors in here. My diamond shadow just popped out. And that is my favorite shade. That is my favorite shade. So, no, no, no. You go back in and you stay in. Okay, so I'm gonna have to be super gentle with this. I've been using this palette lately, like, a lot, especially when I want to do like a blue or green look. Like this blue and this green, really, really pretty. But I love this palette. I love all the colors. If I had to say my favorite color, I just said it because it just popped out, is this shade right here, and it's called Diamond. It's such a pretty, like, all over the lid color. Might as well swatch it since I got it all over my freaking fingers. You probably can't tell, but it's such a nice, like, topper. Oh, such a good shade. I'm so sad that that just happened. Like, why? I try to, like, keep all my palettes in good condition because I love them. I love my palettes. They're like my second babies after my actual babies. Okay, and the last palette that is in this acrylic organizer is from the Makeup Shack. This is the Majestic eyeshadow palette. It does come with a nice sized mirror, but the eyeshadow pans in this palette are freaking ginormous. Like, they're super large square pans of shadow. I did create a nice look using this. I've used this palette at least twice. I do want to use it more. If I had to say my favorite shade on this palette, I'm definitely going to say is between Royal and Clay, but I did just use this matcha green color and it is so good. But it's definitely between Royal and Clay. And their formula is pretty good as well. They have another palette that I want to get that the colors in that palette look so juicy. So I might be purchasing from them again soon, maybe. Okay, so I have the Illuminati X Isa Palette. This is designed by Isabel Bedoya. I'm assuming it's in collaboration with this brand. I received this in a boxy charm. It does come with a nice size mirror. These are the colors. I'm probably going to declutter this in my next declutter series, but it's just a super powdery formula. I don't really like it. This shade and this shade are really, really pretty, and that is probably the only reason why I'm keeping them, because those colors are super gorgeous. But wow. Okay, in person, this shade is called Purple Dream. It's like, when I look at it, it's purple, but on camera it's like blue. It's pretty cool. But again, those are my only, like, those two shades are pretty, but I'm not going to keep a palette just for two shades. I just can't justify it. I'm going to try using it one more time to see if I can make it work, but if not, it's definitely getting decluttered in my next declutter video. Then I have the Ciate London New England, the Editor Palette New England. It has 18 shadows in it. This also does come with a nice sized mirror, but these are these shades. Really, really pretty. I definitely prefer the matte, like the shimmer formula over the mattes in this palette. They're just a bit too dry for my liking, but the shimmers in here are so gorgeous, especially this one and the red one. I've used this palette probably like 4 or 5 times off camera, maybe once or twice on camera. Really, really enjoyable formulas. You know, the mattes are okay, but the shimmers are freaking gorgeous. I have my very first kind of high-end purchase. This is the Makeup Revolution Flawless 3 Resurrection palette. This is literally one of my very first eyeshadow palette purchases, like years ago, like maybe 7-10 years ago, and I used the living life out of it. I had pan on a few shades, and there's quite a few dips in a few shades, like this one. It was really good. The formula now is probably expired, so it's super dry, but if I look back then, it's really not that amazing, but I was just starting, so it was really good to me. But I'm never gonna let this go because I hold so much freaking sentimental, like, attachment to it. But yeah, I still got this bad boy. I have a little Z palette here with some single shadows, some blushes, highlighters, and bronzers. This bronzer from Colourpop, I really want to use it, but I always forget about it. This bronzer from Shop Massé sucks ass. Okay, so let's get into a few of my Juvia'S Place palettes. I have a few palettes from them. So I have the Warrior palette by Juvia'S Place, which looks like this. Let me just tell you right now, I love all of my Juvia'S Place formulas. They're not going anywhere anytime soon, anywhere near in the future. Like, they're probably never going to go anywhere until I'm done with them. Super good color story, really good for everyday basic beat. You could definitely do it with this, or soft glam, or like a smoky glam, because you could always transform any look to smoky with a dark brown or dark black, or a black. Black is dark. Duh. Then I have the Warrior 2 by Juvia'S Place, which, again, very basic palette, but really good for everyday use. You can make smoky looks with the black or these two shades up here, a nice red berry look, a simple look with the brown transition, any of these on the lid. Like I was using this for a while when I purchased it. And then I have the Zulu by Juvia'S Place, very vibrant. I will say of all the palettes that I have, this is probably my least favorite because there's just so much color in here and I feel like there's not much to create like a full look, you know what I mean? But the shade right here is probably my favorite out of the palette. It's a really pretty shimmer, and I also like the brown as well, and the orange and the yellow. I like the whole palette. Then I have the Nomad by Juvia'S, which is like a green yellow color story. I actually really love this palette. I also created a 2-look-1 palette with this palette video thing, if you know what I mean, what I'm trying to say. I created a video creating 2 looks using this one palette. That video is actually 2 looks in one single video, but really pretty. I've used this about maybe 5 to 6 times and I love it every time. Like, although it's only 9 shades, you can create quite a few different looks using it. You can create highlight, you could create spotlight, halo eyes, cut crease, one shadow looks. Like, this is just a really good color story. So this is from You Can Be. This is a palette I purchased off of Amazon. This is the My Honey palette. Surprisingly, this palette like really surprised me. I thought it was going to be complete booty, but the color story is really pretty. I could definitely use this on an everyday basis, and this shimmer right here is so freaking good. I definitely want to use this a little bit more. I've only used it once in that video when I hauled it and actually put it on my eyes, but I really like it. I also like the packaging. I like how it's like a yellow tint type of transparent, like super cute. Next I have the Storybook Cosmetics Fairy Tales palette. This is the Little Red Riding Hood. I have a love-hate relationship with this palette because it's so bulky. I hate the packaging, but the packaging is so cute at the same time, and the freaking shades in here are freaking gorgeous. Like, if I had to use this palette every day, I most definitely could. Like, I love this brown, I love this brown, I love this little peachy orange shade. Like, it's just a good color story. Like, can you argue with me or not? Like, am I right or am I right? And it does come with a little mirror. Like, it's so cute. Like, there's a part of me that wants to declutter it because it takes up so much freaking space, but I don't, because I love the formula to these shadows. I love the actual like concept behind the packaging. Like, I like Little Red Riding Hood, you know. So next is a palette from Wet n Wild. Again, this was when I first started getting into makeup. I purchased this palette. So this is the Rose in the Air palette from Wet n Wild. It's a 10-pan eyeshadow palette. I need water, I'm getting dry. It's a 10-pan eyeshadow palette. This shade and this shade are meant to be transition shades, and then you could create a look with the rest of the shades, but you don't have to use them like that. Use it however you want. It just, that's how it comes when you purchase the palette. It says transition, like it's imprinted in these shadows. But as you can see, I most definitely love this palette. This is kind of like modern Renaissance dupe, drugstore version. I hit pan on these 2 shades. If I was to show you, actually I'll just show you now. So I do have the Modern Renaissance palette, and as you can see, there's a lot of similarities, like this color, and then this color, that like purple color, the cool tone brown transition shade. You know, it's very similar. It's just a drugstore version, and it's really good. I love Wet n Wild's formula. It's really like affordable and good. Like, there's no complaints. We'll get into ABH later. I have the Too Faced Natural Matte Palette, and the packaging on Too Faced products is so cute. It's like so girly and like, I don't know, I like it. It does come with a nice sized mirror, but these are what these shades look like. Again, I can most definitely reach for this palette on the everyday basis, like as far as like my work days go, but there's just something about this palette that I don't reach for it. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I don't visually see it in my collection, but hold on. Ooh. Oh, I knew I smell some goodness. This smells really good. So next I have two palettes from Face Candy, which used to be on Shop Hush, but that website no longer exists, so I don't even know where to purchase this. But I have these Sahara palettes, and this is one of my favorite shadow formulas. Like, their mattes are so pigmented and blend out really good, and their shimmers, don't even get me started on their shimmers. As you can tell, I most definitely love this palette. I'm so sad that I'm almost gonna be done with like all the shades pretty soon. I might incorporate this and might pan those shadows. My son did get a hold of it and mixed a few shades. Like, he mixed this in here, some of this in there. I'm sad he did that because I love this palette, but I've got more than enough use out of it. The second palette from Face Candy is the Amazonia palette. I heard that these are supposed to be dupes for like one of Kylie Jenner's palettes. I think the Naughty and Nice ones. But again, I hit pan on two shades. Like, this formula is so bomb and so affordable. Like, I love their shimmers. They're probably one of my favorite types of formulas. If I had to pick between the two, I would most definitely pick the Sahara palette to be in one of like to take a spot in my top 10 eyeshadow palettes. Then I have the Morphe X Jaclyn Hill palette. This is from her collab with Morphe when she created the 4 different color stories. This is the Bling Boss one because I love pink purple shades as far as my eyeshadow goes. So I definitely went for the purple. I've used this probably maybe 5 times, maybe. And I don't know, this purple shade and this purple shade always end up like splotchy or blotchy, or like they always do something weird. I'm gonna try to use it a few more times, but if I can't get them to work, I'm gonna declutter. Then I have the Ciate London The Velvet palette. I received this in a BoxyCharm recently, and I love the packaging. It does really feel like velvet, and the freaking shimmers in this little... Why are all my shades just popping out? I'm gonna lose my freaking mind. Give me a second. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I can't move it too like forward because this shade just popped out of nowhere, because the last time I touched this palette it was perfectly fine. But the mattes in here blend out really nicely, but the shimmers in here are the star. The shimmers are really nice and like pigmented and definitely show up. I used this like gold yellow and it was so pretty. I used this shade on the inner corner, really nice and bright. So I'm definitely going to be keeping this in my collection for a while. Then I have something from Artist Couture. This is the Caliente palette. I did receive this in a BoxyCharm, and the look I created, I actually really liked it. Like, it's definitely going to be a look I recreate for summer, maybe springtime. It does come with only 8 shades, but it's really nice to create a nice hot, fiery, spicy look. And the formula is really nice. I like it. Definitely not my favorite, but I do like it, and it does come with a nice size mirror. And let's talk about the packaging. It just gives me freaking bougie vibes. Like, it's super sleek and thin. Like, I go to the club and be like, can I get a shot of tequila? Like, okay. I'm not gonna take a palette with me to the club though, because that's ridiculous. Moving on to the next palette, we have the Celestial Thunder palette from Dominique Cosmetics, and this is another palette that's most definitely in my top 10. I love this color story. My favorite way to use this palette is doing a 3-toned ombre look. So I normally will place this in the crease, this below that shade, and on the outer corner, and then I will go in with this shade on the outer corner as well, and then ombre with this shade and this shade, like a 3-toned ombre look. Is so freaking good, and the formula is bomb. Okay, my daughter just woke up. I had to give her a bottle, and I just adjusted my lighting a little bit so it's a little bit more vibrant. Okay, so I'm running out of freaking recording space. I'm at 27 minutes and I have 34, so I have quite a few palettes left, so let's get through this. So next I have the Natasha Denona Peak palette. It's a 5 shadow palette, and again, this is probably going to be in my Pando shadows because I love this formula. I received this in a BoxyCharm recently, and it's so good. I love every shade in here, but this metallic shade is really, really nice, and this brown shade is so good in the freaking crease. So yeah, I really do enjoy this formula. The next is from Dose of Colors. This is the Blushing Berry palette, and this is another 5-pan palette. It is so easy to create a really cohesive look using this palette, and I love that they incorporated a black because it is really nice to make a berry toned matte look smoky, because these are all mattes. So yeah, I love this formula as well. So next is a palette from Ace Beauty, and this is the Grandiose Palette. I received this in one of my very early on BoxyCharms, and as you can see, I definitely love this palette, especially that shade right there. It's such a good shade all over the lid, but all these shades are really pretty. I put a nice little dent in this shade, this shade, this shade, and this shimmer shade as well. Also probably going to be on my Pando shadows quite soon when I make that video, probably in the next week or two, or when I move into my new house I'll make that video. But I definitely love this palette. So here I have the Violet Floss Essentials palette. This is the first one. I do have volume 2 in my Alley Glines everyday makeup stuff, but this is what it looks like. It does come with a mirror, and these shades are really pretty. Again, I could definitely use this for every day. Like with these shades right here, I could definitely use these shades on an everyday basis. And if I wanted to pop a color on the inner corner, I could use this shade, this shade, this shade. And if I wanted to make it smoky, I could definitely use the black. I do enjoy Violet Voss formula. Like, they're not great, but they're not bad. You know what I mean? They're like just right. Next, I have the Ofra Good To Go Mini Mix palette, and I received this recently in a BoxyCharm. And basically, these are eyeshadows, a blush, a bronzer, and a highlight. I love Ofra's highlight, so I really enjoy that I have another highlight from Ofra. And the mattes are really nice, and so are these shimmers. Like, this whole palette is really good. So if you're looking for something to use, like, that has everything in one, I definitely like this palette and recommend it. So got that bad boy. I have another Ace Beauty palette. This is the Scarlet Dusk palette. I know that one of these shades do pop out, but it does come with a nice sized mirror, and these are really warm tone shadows. Definitely good for like summer and spring. Very nice and vibrant. There's a lot of red tones, berry tones in here. I do like it, not more than the other Ace Beauty palette that I have though. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this in my collection any longer if I don't reach for it anytime sooner. Or anytime soon. Next is a palette from Colourpop. I have the Colourpop Cute, well, this is the Yes Please palette. So it's really confusing that they wrote Cute AF and then Yes Please on the inside. Or Yes Please on the back. Not on the inside. But this was also one of my very early, like when I just started getting into makeup purchases, and as you can tell, I freaking love this palette. Again, I have a sentimental attachment. I don't think I could get rid of this anytime soon, but I do want to put this in a Pando shadows because I hit pan on 4 shades in here, and this shade, this shade, this shade, and this shade, and the yellow have a super deep dent in them, so I want to hit as much pan in this palette as I can. But yeah, I'm not letting this go anytime soon. So next I have the Kylie Jenner Pressed Powder palette. This is the bronze palette. Basically, I keep it in the packaging because her actual eyeshadow palette doesn't say which palette it is, just in case I purchase more of her palettes. But I actually really like this palette, even though it's more like neutral. I love the look I created when I use this palette, so I definitely want to use it some more. It does come with a nice sized mirror, but the shades are really nice neutral basic shades. Definitely could use this, especially on my 4 days of work. I think I would get a lot of use out of this palette because, you know, I'm working in a warehouse. I'm not trying to look like I'm a Riviera's Next Top model. I just want to put something together so I don't look like shit at 6 in the morning from a 10-hour shift, you know? Next, I have the Grandeur Palette from Colourpop. This is one of their 9 pan shadows. I freaking love the packaging on this palette. It's like soft velvet. And the shades, honey, don't even get me started. This is like new to my collection. I just did a video using this palette. I don't think it's up yet, but if it is, I'll leave it linked up here. And I love this palette. Like, I love Colourpop. Colourpop is probably one of my favorite freaking makeup brands, to be honest. They create my favorite brow pencil. They create bomb-ass eyeshadow. Like, I love Colourpop. They just know what they're doing. So next is the Visearts Palette. This is the neutral matte eyeshadow palette, which looks like this. I received this in a BoxyCharm because this bad boy is expensive. It's expensive, baby girl. But again, this is a nice neutral palette. I could definitely, again, use this just like on my days I go to work, even off days. Like, you could create really nice soft glam with this palette, definitely. And the formula is really nice. Do I think it's worth the price point though? I don't know. Would I pay for it? No. If it was on sale, maybe. But the formula is really nice. Next is another palette from Juvia'S Place. This is the Chocolates by Juvia'S Place, which looks like this. Really, really pretty. I actually really love this palette and highly recommend out of their Color Story palettes. So Juvia'S Place has quite a few of these. Like they have the nudes, the taupes, the berries, the reds, and then the chocolates, and maybe a couple that I'm missing, but I freaking love this palette. I could also create a look with this palette alone every single day, just using these two shades, and if I really wanted to, I could use this shade. Like, I love this little palette. It's so cute, like especially for travel. Not that I'm going anywhere anytime soon, but yeah, if you like small palettes or brown chocolatey shades, this palette is it. So next I have the Fenty Beauty Moroccan Spice palettes. I received this in like a one brand boxy premium box where it was all Fenty products. And I've literally only used this once or twice, but I will say that these like shimmer shades are heaven. There's just something about this palette that doesn't make me want to reach for it. I don't know what it is, but the shades are really pretty. I'm going to try to reach for it more, and if I don't, then I'm going to declutter it. Ooh, next is a palette from Kylie Jenner. This is definitely my top 10. This is the Sipping Pretty palette, and this has 21 shadows, a nice sized mirror, and baby girl, the formula on this palette is bomb. The mattes blend out amazing. The shimmers are, like, if I had to rate them out of a like 5, I would give them like a 3.8, the shimmers, but the mattes are really bomb in this palette, and I love the color story. Like, this is definitely a palette I could reach for on the everyday basis and like get away with creating some soft glam, some pops of color with the blue or the pink. Like, such a pretty palette. I love the packaging. So next is a palette from Alamar Cosmetics. This is the Spanglish palette, and look at that. I love those like earrings. They're kind of like these earrings. I actually have a pair like this that say baby girl on them, I think, or they might not say anything. They just might be heart earrings, but I love the packaging. And I actually really love the shades in here as well. This was featured in a BoxyCharm premium box, if I'm not mistaken, and I love the shades. I love the shades. I love the pink and purple. You already know these are my favorite like colors as far as shadow goes, and transition shades all day, every day, really good. And this color right here is really pretty as well. Ooh, oh my god, why is this all the way at the bottom? Okay, so next is a palette from Makeup Revolution. This is their color book. This is the O2 color book, and this is a 48 pen palette. If I could open it, that'd be great. I dug my nail into it. Okay, if I dig my nail in another palette, I'm just gonna freaking stop recording. I just dug my nail into the shade. But I just also did a video with this palette. This is very new to my collection, like with the Fairy palette and the Colourpop palette. Like, I just did a video with this palette last week, and the look came out gorgeous. So there's this plastic like acrylic that protects this side, which is all shimmers, from messing up the mattes. And basically I love the concept to this palette because it's basically all mattes then all shimmers, and they're kind of cohesive. So it's like these are the same shades as up here. They are just in a different formula. So I really like that concept a lot, and I hate that it just pinched my finger because my finger hurts now. Next, I have the Ace Beauty Nostalgia palette. We received this in a BoxyCharm recently, and the palette, like, I love the mirror on this palette, but I also love the vibrant shades in this palette. Like, again, this is definitely more a fall spring type of palette. So yeah, the look I created using this palette was pretty fiery too. So I'm going to try to insert a picture of the look that I created up here. But yeah, I really do like this palette. I want to reach for it a bit more, especially in summer, spring. Next, I have a palette from Zoeva. This is the Caramel Melange palette. I like the packaging, super sleek and thin and simple, and the shades in here give me Kim KW vibes. Are you with me or are you with me? Like, look at how nude these shades are. Like, I used this shade for like a whole week. I mean, I've used this palette for like a whole week, and I love the looks that I created with it. I do have a few videos, which I will leave linked up here, using this palette. Like, creating a soft glam with this palette is super easy. I like the ratio of mattes to shimmers in this palette. So these 6 shades are matte, and these 4 are like shimmery, kind of. Like, this one is kind of like a matte with specks of glitter in it, but these 3 are most definitely shimmer metallic shades. I love this palette. It's really nice, and I don't know, I like this palette. Next we have some small palettes before we get into my Anastasia palettes. So I have the Huda Beauty Pastels Lilac palette. This is her 9-pan palette. It does come with a mirror. She has different color stories in this type of palette form. She has like neons, nudes, chocolates, browns, a whole bunch of different color stories. But I got this in a boxy charm, and I actually really like the formula, and the look I created was really, really pretty. Definitely gonna use this more in the spring because it's super pastel-y. So probably gonna use this on Easter. But yeah, I do like this palette. I do want to get some more of her palettes that are this size, and the larger ones as well. But I want to try like the new chocolates one that came out. It just looks really nice. Then I have the Ultimate Nudes from Makeup Revolution. They have 3 other color stories with this type of palette. So I got the light one, and again, this is just a 9-pan palette. Really, really pretty. Again, I want to reach for this a bit more in the spring because there are some purple shades in here and some like light pinky shades that I want to use in the spring. So next is definitely actually both of these are my top 10 favorites. So I have some Maven Beauty quads. I have the Basic Beat Define quad and the Basic Beat Medium Blend quad. This one I do plan on incorporating in a Pando Shadows because I could definitely use this on my everyday like type of look when I don't want to be like all extra or whatever. I don't know why I said like that right now. And then I'll probably incorporate this one as well because these 2 palettes together are amazing. Like, you have your transition shades and then some deeper shades. Really, really pretty. So last but not least are 4 palettes, and they're all from ABH, and here they are. So I have the Modern Renaissance palette, which you already saw, and this palette is beat to the gods. Like, I don't even want to use it anymore because it's losing its life. But I did love this palette, and it has got, like, I got my money out of this palette for sure. Then I think for my birthday or for Christmas, my boyfriend, yes, my boyfriend, because we're back together now, you know, things happen, life happens. I'm a very forgivable person, but not too forgivable, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we're back together. We're happy AF. And yeah, my boyfriend got me these 2 palettes, I believe for my birthday or for Christmas in 2020. So I have the Riviera palettes from Anastasia. Obviously, it's all Anastasia palettes. Duh. So ditzy. And I freaking love this palette, especially this pink right here. The shimmers are bomb, but that pink, you already know, that pink and that purple and this little baby light pink, definitely calling my name. I've definitely used this quite a bit since he got it for me. He also got me the Norvina palette, which is so nice. I love Anastasia's packaging. And I actually really, really enjoyed this palette. I love the color story. I love the purples and the pinks. I love the shimmers in here. They're freaking gorgeous. And the freaking mattes are bomb as per usual. And I love the fact that there's a color in here for me to like set down my concealer or eyeshadow primer. If I had to say favorite shade, I'm definitely gonna say this like dark brown is really pretty, and this shade right here. So Eccentric and Passion for mattes, and then Dreamer and Rose Gold, definitely my favorite shimmers. And then last but not least is my Amore Z palette, and this is I still freaking have the brush in here. Jeez, there goes the brush. This is probably one of my favorite palettes out of the 4 that I have. I love the shades in here. I could definitely use this on the everyday basis. And this is the only palette of hers in the style that has more than, what do these have? More than 14 shades. This actually has 16, so 8 and 8 in every, like in both columns. The other ones only have 7 in each column. So this one is like slightly larger, which I'm here for, but it was a lot more expensive, which I'm not here for. But I actually really like this one out of all. I don't know, it's like it's hard for me to choose between these two because I love both color stories. So Amore Z and Norvina are definitely in my top 10. So I'm probably gonna leave a list at the end here. I'll like insert a picture and talk about it or something of my top 10 favorites. So here is a list of my favorite palettes, from like my favorite to my least favorite out of my top 10. So first is the Beauty Bay Fury 2.0 palette. I know it's new to my collection, but I've like fallen in love with that palette, so it's definitely taken number 1. Then the Colourpop Grandeur Palette, again new to my collection, but I love the formula and the colors. In 3rd place is the Celestial Thunder Palette by Dominique Cosmetics. 4th place, Juvia'S placed the Chocolates Palette. 5th place, Norvina Palette by ABH, of course. 6th place, the Norvina Pro Pigment Volume 4 Palette. 7th place is the Sahara Palette by Face Candy. 8th place is the Maven Beauty Medium Blend. 9th place is the Maven Beauty Define Quad. And then last but not least is the Jaclyn Hill X Morphe Volume 1 palette. So with that being said, yeah, those are all my palettes. I know, well, minus one, which is the Volume 2, which I'll insert a picture here. That's in my everyday makeup bag. But that is the only palette I didn't talk about. But those are all my eyeshadow palettes. So if you enjoyed watching me talk about my eyeshadow palettes and looking at what I have all in my collection, then drop a thumbs up, comment down below what you guys thought. If you have these, if you want to try these, anything, or if you want to say hey girl, hey, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you go to join the Rose family. I have monthly giveaways, and I'm currently we're hosting a 1K giveaway. I'm waiting for everything to make the video about that, but 1K giveaway coming soon. Quite a few products. I'm trying to make it as nice as possible because my next big giveaway is going to be 5K or 10K. I'm debating. So yeah, you gotta be subscribed to enter those bad boys, you know. And yeah, I need to go. My children are awake. I'm kind of hangry and thirsty at the same time, and I've been talking for almost an hour now about eyeshadow palettes. So I hope you guys are having an amazing day or night wherever you are. Staying safe, staying blessed, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye. Can you play that again?